What is up, YouTube fam? Robbie C here. Today is the third day that I've put on this outfit in order to go film literally this specific video. And you know what? I'm gonna just go ahead and show you. This is the third day that it's raining. So I guess we're filming it inside because I need to get this to Silas to get edited because I'm out of town next week. So let's talk about my first sanctioned tournament back in a month and a half, and I'm going to ask, Hayden, how are you doing today? Are you having a good one? So catch me if I fall. For those of you who are newer to the channel or you weren't following last year, I am a tournament player. I love to play in tournaments. I think that not only playing in tournaments makes me just a better player of the game, but I think it also helps me better at helping others improve their game because I have experience in sort of those trial situations or those pressure situations and seeing how that feels. And while for some of you, you have no interest in playing tournaments whatsoever, stress or pressure can come in different ways because for you, that pressure may simply be, I play with my friends all the time and I really would like to just beat the pants off of them and just, like pound them into the ground. But for some of you, you are going to take that step one day, whether it's sanctioned or unsanctioned tournaments. And for me, I knew that wanting to compete on the MPO side of things and stepping up to play an MPO in order to really find success, I was good with the distance that I had in backhand, but I wanted to push more distance, not necessarily because I wanted to be throwing those 450 or 500 foot bombs, but honestly, I wanted to be able to throw those 300-foot shots with a little more comfort, and being able to throw slower discs on some of these easier holes would allow me to get more birdie opportunities because I knew that my putting was good, but I was putting for pars when everyone else on the card was putting for birdies in MPO competition, and I wanted to get that extra distance in order to create those opportunities. So what I did is, honestly, whenever I did the best or the worst moves that I've ever made, I don't really know because I literally broke my backhand form. I took it all the way back to its beginning, went back to standstills, things like that, in order to try to improve my distance. And honestly, spoiler alert, it worked. But I hated the game of disc golf for several months. The mid-season last year, mid-year last year, even if you go back and watch sort of my collabs at Foundation, I dreaded having to throw a disc, on camera. It was only the thought of getting to continue to help others that really pushed me through the darkness of trying to figure out my form. So heading into the tournament, heading into this event, I'm going to be honest, I had two major fears. The first fear that I had was that I was going to have actually not gained any competition distance, because it's one thing when you find distance in a field or you're doing field work and things like that, but it's another entirely when the pressure's on and your body starts tensing up a little bit to see if you can replicate that sort of backhand or the changes that you've been trying to make. The second was that I had taken some time off in order to try to improve my game and improve even other aspects other than just my backhand, get better at putting, better at forehand, better at approaches, things like that. And that I was going to show up, and even if those things had changed, I wasn't going to be able to actually apply them to competition. And so I felt myself a little nervous about both of those things, but knew that really I was only going to find out the answers to both of them if I dove into competition. So I signed up for the Compound Open 3 over in Griffin, Georgia at Hayden Kujala's course, and I got so excited to compete once again, and I picked this specific course for three reasons. The first was quite simply that I really enjoy the course. It is a private course that only opens for events, and it's one of my favorite courses in the entire sort of state of Georgia. I love playing it. I love playing this event, all iterations of it. And if you're having a good time playing the course, most often you're probably going to play pretty well. And even if you don't play well, you're still going to enjoy it, which just makes for a better experience. The second was for somewhat selfish reasons in terms of rating. There is a lot of OB that exists on this course. There's more OB that has existed in the past because Hayden loves to work in some sort of fake OB or lines and fairways, things like that. Lots of OB means that there can be definite scoring separation, so it rates pretty well. And the third is that it's pretty forehand friendly. Even some of the more straight tunnel shots, you can make a forehand work. And I walked in ready to trust my backhand, but also knowing that if I needed to, I could lean on the forehand. So how did it go? Now, in order to talk about how it went, got to start with the practice round because or even the practice leading up to it. I spent a lot of time practicing putting in the weeks leading up. And honestly, I talked a lot more about how I prepare for the tournament over at In the Bag. It's a podcast that I run, if you've never seen it, over on the Foundation Podcast Network. I run it with All Business Brad. And we talked about in episode 98 about tournament prep specifically. And I tried to really focus on putting because I knew that if I can putt well, my putting is legitimately good enough to get me to 900 rated. And I don't throw bad enough to inhibit my putting to where it's never going to have a chance to shine so that I can continue to putt and sort of work my way up. So if I just had my putt feeling good, I knew I was going to succeed to a certain degree. Obviously, putts don't matter if you can ever find the green, but I was pretty focused on my putt. So I had been spending a lot of time practicing, and I had a piece of my form really hitting to where when I was throwing it well and I was hitting it well, it was going so far, like easy distance. I was hitting 350, 370 easier than I ever have in the past. Now the issue is, and this was with 8-speed Passions, by the way, the distance drivers, when I got a hold of them, it was surprising. Now the issue was that in hitting these, when I wasn't hitting them well, I was having to trust that, I can have a little grip lock and that's fine. I can move it a little right, that's fine. But when I wasn't hitting it well, it was slipping out and I was barely getting like 100 feet because I was literally losing it all the way back here. And so it was gone. And making those adjustments, I talked with my coach a couple days before the tournament. We figured out a solution and was ready to dive in and use that solution. Went and played a practice round with 2 Birdie fan members on Friday before the event. And while we were playing it, I walked up with sort of a game plan of like half of these holes I'm probably going to throw a backhand and or maybe a little under half. I think I had 8 holes that I had planned on throwing a backhand tee shot, and 11 holes, there are 10 holes that I planned on throwing a forehand tee shot. Things were going pretty well on the practice round until we got to hole 13. Hole 13, uphill tunnel shot, and I mean, it is a tunnel shot of a tunnel shot, and the worst place to be on the fairway, early left. So what happens? It's a backhand hole for sure. You can just throw a nice, easy flip up backhand, ride it straight there. Should be nothing to worry about. But then when I go to throw this shot, I feel myself losing the shot back here, and it slips out early left. I'm like, no worries. We know what to do. We made the fix. Add the pinky in. Here we go. And if you guys want, we can definitely make a video talking about that fix in the future. Let us know in the comments. But I see it slip out. I'm like, that's fine. We know what we did wrong. Just fix it. Not only do we know what we did wrong, we know how to fix it. Fix it. So I grab another disc, step up, boom, same miss. And I'm like, we just told ourselves what to do. Like, this isn't a mystery. You know what to do. Dummy, step up and do it. So I grab 2 more discs. Early release, early release. And at this point, I'm a little flustered. And I'm getting pretty frustrated. So frustrated that I ended up actually, at one point, I like throw my hat down on the ground. Because I'm like, Dennis, get over yourself. Throw the shot. Throw the shot. Just commit to the shot. I throw one more, can't get it. And I'm like, oh, that's so annoying. Whatever. So I throw a forehand and it works. It gets up there, puts myself in the circle for the chance of the putt. And I'm like, that's fine. We're going to figure this backhand out and we're going to throw the backhand during the tournament. So then we go to the next hole, hole 14. It's another short little backhand, short and technical. But this one has a big tree right off the middle that you kind of got to throw like a pushing hyzer around. It needs a little bit of flip, but not too much. You're looking for a putter or a mid-range, like 245 feet. But it is a bonus birdie because this tree is so large and in the way, you kind of like go around it. And what do? Early release straight into the tree. Early release straight into the tree. Early release straight into the tree. And I look at the people that I'm with and I'm like, guys, I'm going to fix this. I'm going to fix this. And sure enough, I throw one and it does exactly what it's supposed to. And I clap my hands and I'm like, here we go. That's it. I run back and I grab 4 discs out of my bag and literally drop them right there. And I don't even let anyone else get on the tee pad. I throw one, grab another one, throw one, grab another one, throw one. And I do this trying to solidify in my head, we can do this. We can do this. We can do this. Throw a backhand. But the damage was already done, y'all. That seed of doubt of it creeping into my head of like, you're losing the shot early, you're losing the shot early. I knew if I was throwing powerful backhands, that wasn't going to be an issue. But on these shorter, softer, like sub 300 foot backhands, it was like, I'm so nervous. I'm so afraid. And unfortunately, almost all the backhands that I had to throw were all sub 300 feet. So with the damage done, I'm nervous. I'm worried about it. But taking us to round one. First tournament back, I feel the nerves a little bit, but the first hole that we end up playing, open par 4. And if I were to describe, I'm not going to take you shot by shot through. I actually did a sort of shot by shot breakdown with the Birdie fam. But if I were to describe the story of round one, it was, am I the best putter ever? In order to talk about the rounds, we're going to sort of give it 3 categories here. We're going to give it throwing, we're going to give it putting, and we're going to give it mental. So throwing, I was okay. Not anything sort of insane. I wasn't necessarily parking too many baskets that were impossible to reach. Most of, if any of my birdies, all came from decent putts or things like that. Like very rarely was I absolutely parked. But my putting was where I went absolutely insane. I hit 4 different circle 2 putts, whether they were for a birdie or whether they were for a par save. It was one of those kind of rounds where you're just stepping up and you actually felt like you were putting at Barnes. Every time I looked up at a putt, I was just like, yeah, I have absolute confidence that I can make this. And really what sparked it is I had like a 23 footer into this sunken basket, and I threw the putt and I left it short, and this sunken basket literally sits inside the ground. But Hayden does a really cool job. He leaves the top rung of the basket actually exposed so that you can't just slide it in. You actually have to hit the putt in the air. I think if you're going to do a sunken basket, that's the way to do it, because it eliminates the cheese of like, oh, just turn this putter over and just slide it on the ground and slide it in. But I go to throw this putt like 23 feet on this island hole, sunken basket, and I hit short, and I hear Hayden say out loud, oh, you missed short. Nobody ever misses short on this basket. And I told myself, well, that's the last time that happens. Made a circle 2 putt on the next hole, circle 2 putt on the next hole, and just started like truly going insane. Now the mental, incredible. The mental was super high. Every time that I threw sort of a bad shot or for instance, hole 10, I hit first available and I had 210 feet into the green on this 285 foot hole. I hit first available, drop down, and literally from there, throw a standstill shot with Precious Child, flip it up, ride all the way down, and I'm 45 feet past the basket on this par 3. And I turned around and I looked at the putt and I was like, sick. This is so easy. Toss it up there, made it in. Like, had that much confidence going into the round. So the mental was, we can't throw any bad shots because we're going to recover. All the practice and putting made up for it. Feeling really good. And where does that round end up coming in? Because we ended up shooting a 995 or 996 rated round, which felt incredible. And it was coming off of the back of fantastic putting, really keeping the mental dialed, and knowing like we're putting really well. We're making some that we probably shouldn't make the next round just percentage wise, but we know we can throw better than this. So let's step in. Now the tricky part is that we knew we weren't going to be throwing any backhands. So on 18 holes, we threw 5 backhands, and on those 5 backhands, we got 2 birdies. So that felt really good. Now that takes us to round 2. In round 2, my parents actually showed up to caddy. They were supposed to be there for round 1, but late evening and it was super cold in the morning. It was like literally in the 40s for the first round. I know you guys in the north are like, 40s isn't cold, that's super warm, I love it. Not for this little southern guy. And I actually come into the second round with the lead. But I told my parents, and I think it's an important thing to note, is like, let's have healthy expectations, but not be negative. I told my parents coming into the first round, the 2 guys that are right behind me, both absolutely have the potential to birdie this first hole with 2 pretty okay shots for them, because both of the guys behind me are both 990 plus rated. And I know in order for me to get the birdie on this hole, because the tee shot calls for a huge backhand turnover, and my current miss on backhand is either shorting it left or pulling it right. There's a Mando on the right side, so I was just throwing a safe like little chip 370 foot forehand, and then work my way around. And the chip forehand had not put me in a great place with a bush the last few times. And so I was like, just throw it straight, avoid the bush. That's going to be fine. So I step up, telling my parents before the round starts, be okay with this, Robbie, because there's a very real chance that after the first hole, they have caught you because they both birdie it. And if you don't throw 2 incredible shots, you're not going to birdie the first hole. And that's fine. So step up, throw my drive, and I land in the heart of a bush to where I can't even throw a run up, and I have like 500 left to the pin. And so I have to throw a standstill, and I'm into such a deep bush of like this tall grass that I literally like smack my hand trying to throw this shot. End up taking a 5 there, bounce back. Next hole is one of the hardest holes to birdie. Don't birdie that. But I take a par, and then I birdie the next hole. I birdie the hole after that, and I'm feeling great. Vibes are going super well. Till we get to hole 8. I throw a tee shot. It doesn't go ideal, and I hit a tree, and I kick hard left. I'm like, that's fine. We can scramble out, and we should be okay. And I am so stuck in a tough place with where my lie is, y'all. I spend the entire 30 seconds that I have having addressed my lie just quite literally trying to figure out how I can stand on my lie and move an arm. And I know that I'm running out of time, and so I get to a point where I'm just like, I've got to throw it. And so I go to throw it, and my hand literally gets caught in a vine, and I do that. Chip it up. It doesn't go great. I ended up taking a double bogey on that hole. I had 3 birdies at that point. Washes away 2 of them, the first bogey on the first hole. So I'm back at even, and I'm like, okay, that's fine. Instantly step up on hole 9, backhand drive, and I birdie the hole. Feeling absolutely incredible. Okay, bounce back. Here we go. And so as the round continues to progress, if I were to judge round 2, how I would say is that I threw solid. I didn't throw bad. I didn't throw amazing. I threw solid. I threw lots of great tee shots. On this round, the putting was actually pretty fantastic once again. Putting was doing work. It was helping me save some spots. And really, all the ones that fell in on round 1, I hit band or cage or things like that from even circle 2 4, 5 times. And mental, once again, at an all-time high. My dad told me when I took the double bogey, he was like, Robbie, a year and a half ago when you were playing sanctioned events, if you take this double bogey, you collapse. Like, you collapse on that. I ended up being like a 970 something rated round, I believe. Feeling fantastic. We are executing, and I'm feeling like, man, it was worth it. The break was worth it. Now, cue it up for round 3. And honestly, I'm telling myself, Hayden has looked sketchy on the putting green. Kevin hasn't necessarily popped off in any way. Rick just played a really good round. I don't know if he's got another one of those in him. I literally am walking into round 3 telling myself, I think I have like a 60% chance of winning this. Like, we have a very real chance of doing this. And that's what I told myself. Let's do that. So I felt at an all-time high heading into the last round.
Let's just say it didn't go according to plan.
This third round, probably the most difficult for me to process in terms of like understanding how it went on the other side. It's very interesting because I think, and this is what I want you to hear, if you're an amateur watching this, I think so often players come out of a round beating themselves up because their expectations are way above their skill potential. Now, that's not to say that we should lower our expectations to make things like expect to play bad, things like that. But I have players that they'll walk out and they're 850 rated, 840 rated, even sub 900 or even around 900. And they're like, yeah, man, can't believe I missed 3 circle 1 putts today. My brother, you realize like that's a pro tour level thought. 100% inside circle 1. That's a pro tour level thought. And we're floating sub 900. And you're kicking yourself about that. That feels like unnecessary stress. And if I were to summarize round 3 with a word, it would be unfortunate. I've heard people say like when it comes to luck in disc golf, the better you are, the more lucky you get, which makes sense because you can't get bad tree kicks if you just throw it straight enough and don't hit a tree. When I think about that round, putting felt solid. We'll go there first. Because when I had the opportunity to putt, most of the time, it went pretty well. During the round, I had 4 putts that were unobstructed. Of the entire round, 4 putts that were unobstructed. And when I say unobstructed, I mean I'm not having to mark and lean out like this. To me, that would be an obstructed putt. While I practice my straddle, while I practice that, there were just so many moments of like, oh, okay, cool. I'm going to have to make like a trick shot work in order to get this putt going. That's how the putting felt. But what about the driving? What about the throwing? Because you got to think, the driving can't have felt that great if we ended up with 14 or only 4 or 5 unobstructed putts. And I would say, yeah, the drives felt okay. Really where I struggled during this round was if I had a shot that was good to great, most of the time, that result was given. Almost every time, it was getting some form of a bad kick or a bad punish, or some was like a huge skip, whatever it may be, a roll away, things like that. Once again, I want to own my bad because I think that if we just say like, oh, I got unlucky, oh, this happened, right? Like we don't actually improve. And that has been, you can just like, if you're watching this section of the video, you can just see how puzzled I am mentally because I want to own what I did wrong. For sure. Like I want to own that because if I don't own it, I don't get better. And it's, if you hit a tree, you didn't throw a good shot. But like a great example being hole 14, one of the problem holes that we talked about in the beginning, I ended up throwing a turnover forehand. Round 1, I throw this turnover forehand and I burn it a little too hard into the ground. It hits and it gets a roll away outside the circle, unable to convert, take a par. Round 2, I throw the same shot and I get down there. Somewhat balanced, like not a great shot, but it gets an okay result. So maybe this is like how it shakes out in the balance world. The third round, it literally, I throw the shot and I finally hit the release angle the way that I wanted, to the point that another card mate was like, oh, that's it. So we watch it curve down the fairway on this beautiful little flip up turning anheuser, like it was a hyzer because it was an understable disc. So throw it on a hyzer and let it stand up and turn over for this fairway shape. And we're like, oh, that's it. Had the right height, had the right power, had the right movement. It wasn't going to burn over. And then it touches a vine that's like the size of a pencil. And that vine redirects it like 100 feet to the right. But really where I think this round failed me was we threw okay. We putted solid. When we could putt, when we had the chance to putt, we made almost all of them. I had a 40-footer that I missed low. And I should have never missed that one low. And then I had a about 25 footer, somewhere in there, that I had just a nice little straddle out onto an elevated basket for a birdie to get a stroke on the entire field that I missed. And that was right after hole 8, which is where we get to the mental. And the mental, not as strong as I thought I was. Going into round 1, hole 8, threw a shot, chip, got just outside the green, missed the putt, take a par. Round 2 is that I can't find a place to stand. Try to fight vine hits. I try to throw a forehand roller out and I hit a patch of leaves as a forehand roller hits that literally shoots me like 40 feet in the air. It's like I found a trampoline in the middle of the ground. That's how the first double bogey goes. So this time, I step up to hole 8, and I'm trying to tell myself, we're cool. Just throw a chip forehand. Don't try to be aggressive. Go a little faster than you did yesterday. Throw a chip forehand, and just try to get some distance. So I throw my drive, and I watch another dude throw his drive, and it looks like we threw the exact same drive. but he pushed about 20 feet farther than me. And that 20 feet was all the difference. Because I walk up and I am like in another place where the only option I have is to basically lay down on the ground. I can pitch out, which was an option, but I knew, okay, I see where the rest of my field is, so I have to somewhat play I have to play aggressive here a little bit because they're in a favorable position. And so I literally have this like lean out as deep as I can go, flex forehand, and it doesn't go well. And I end up taking another double bogey. That was one of the 40 footers that I end up missing low that haunts me because that was for my 5. I miss it, take the 6. And I walk out of the next hole and I'm just frustrated because I have now given that hole 4 strokes in the tournament. So it's hard to not look at that hole and just like kick yourself for it over and over again. And I'm telling myself, I cannot believe that I took the only double, like, what are we doing, dude? What are we doing? And I let it haunt me. And then I let those 2 holes frustratingly build up to hole 10. And then I let those 3 holes frustratingly build up to hole 11. And I just, every time from there on out, when I step up to a putt and I don't, like I literally can't putt because I'm in thorns or I'm like stuck behind a bunch of trees, whatever it may be, off the drive or things like that. I just let it continue to frustrate me over and over and over again. And so the mental, not as strong as we thought, but we do have some takeaways. One of our biggest fears was, did we actually see improvement? And I think looking at, okay, my biggest strength in my game right now is putting. And in that last round, whether the unluckiness factor hit in or just poor throwing off the tee, poor approaches, whatever it may be, whatever factors combined did it, it brought my putting out of the equation. Very few moments was my putting allowed to shine in that 3rd round. And it still came in at 936. So we took my greatest strength as a player and removed it. And we still were able to shoot a higher rated round than what we were at before coming into the time off. And that feels super good. The second worry was, man, what if we're not able to actually apply the backhand feel to this round? I ended up throwing 5 backhand tee shots every round. So 15 opportunities. And in those 15 opportunities, I got 5 birdies and 10 pars. I never took a bogey on a backhand hole. And 33% of the time, we actually birdied, which feels fantastic, y'all. But the third and like honestly the biggest one is just, I cannot stress enough how much the mental matters. Whether you are playing a great round and you're letting that mentality not sort of overwhelm you and like, hey, I'm putting together a great round. Oh no, oh no, oh no. I think one of the healthiest mental expectations I had was literally telling myself like, hey, I know that this first hole we're going to play is not a strong hole for me. And it is a strong hole for the 2 people who are breathing down my neck right behind me. Because when I took the bogey on that hole, I was annoyed, but I wasn't stressed. I wasn't worried. So that is going to wrap it up for today's video. I hope this is helpful. It's a little rambly. I'm so sorry, y'all. I really wanted this to be out on a course throwing. In fact, what I wanted to throw was this disc. This is the Barb. The Barb is from Compound Discs. Hayden, the guy that runs that course, has started doing like a 3D printing. So this has actually been approved by the PDGA. I was going to try it out alongside Straight Pig. That video will be coming, don't you guys worry. So if you're a tournament player or you've just been struggling mentally during your rounds, I hope this is helpful. Like I said, I think that me trying to push myself in tournaments actually does help make the content better, or at least I want to believe that. So you guys just let me know how you feel about it. So hope you have an amazing rest of your day. Please make it fantastic for someone else too. But for now, we're going to leave you with the birdie.